Welcome to another episode of How I Discovered My Gift with yours truly, David D. Simons. I am honored and delighted to have today's guest on the show, Brenden. Brenden is the founder of MasterTalk, a coaching business he started to help ambitious executives and business owners become the top 1% communicators in their industries so they can accelerate their success in the workplace and their companies. Brenden is one of the world's most leading communication experts. LinkedIn named him a top voice on the platform in 2024, distinguishing him among just 300 recipients from a pool of 1 billion LinkedIn users in the North America every year. I need you to understand that. He's a 1 of 1 billion, 300 of 1 billion. That's a very top percent of the world's communicators. He's also has a combined social media following over 150K on Instagram, through Master Your Talk. We're going to plug that later, so make sure you follow on all his platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, and has coached many executives from companies like Amazon, SpaceX, IBM, JP Morgan, Deloitte, Verizon, BCG, and the list goes on. But let me give you a personal bio that I have of just getting to know Brenden a bit here. We had an opportunity to connect at a mastermind event, and this brother is just genuine. Like, what, a lot of times you meet influencers and you wonder, is this person, approachable, somebody you could talk to, get like Brenden is the coolest guy, like gave me some game-changing advice, and his demeanor is pleasant, as you guys will see through the podcast, and just a pleasant person, just a wonderful person, an optimistic person. And so I'm honored to build a brotherhood and getting to know Brenden more. So listeners, I know you're in for a treat. Get ready, take copious notes, apply what he gives you. He's going to drop some game. So I just want you to know that. Take notes. Thank you, brother. Welcome to the show.
David, that was an awfully generous and kind introduction. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Man, it's an honor. It's an honor, man. When I met you in person, I told you I've been following your content, and my wife first was the one who was following your content, and it was like, you check this guy out. And ever since then, been getting and gleaning from your amazing talks, your amazing wisdom. And so I think listeners are in for a treat, man. So let's dig in, man. I want to go to the journey. Sometimes people see a person today, they see them on social media, they see them here or there, but they don't know the journey that it took to get there. So take me through your childhood to your journey of becoming Brenden.
Absolutely, David. So for starters, my childhood started in Montreal. So I'm born and raised in a city called Montreal in Canada. And for those who don't know what Montreal is, it's a city where you need to know how to speak French, which is a language I didn't really know. And my dad looked at me when I was 5 years old and he said, Brenden, if you want to succeed in Montreal, you need to know how to speak French. So my whole life, David, I struggled with communication because I was put in a system where I had to actually learn French from the ages of 5 to 16. So you can imagine me in a first grade classroom, I'd look at the crowd and go, bonjour. So it's really difficult to give a presentation when you don't know how to speak the bloody language. That's one challenge I had growing up as a kid. The second one is my left arm. So I have a physical disability in my left arm. It's crooked. And the reason I have that disability is because when I was born, the doctor made a mistake in the operation using a machine, and there's like a malfunction in the machine every 1,000 operation. I was that one. I got really lucky because usually when that happens, either the mother or the child dies, and we both live. Like, my mom's great. She's doing fine. She's like vacationing in Sri Lanka right now, or Hope Country. She's having a blast. But the main idea is, like, I got my shoulder dislocated. So I had a lot of social anxiety as a kid because I had a cast when I was young, and I'd be presenting and giving presentations with a cast, and a lot of social anxiety. Long story short, when I got older, funny enough, I became an accountant. So I went to college for accounting, which has nothing to do with what I do now. And then in my journey of being an accountant in college, somebody told me that I needed to do case competitions if I wanted to work for one of the big four accounting firms. KPMG, Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte. It's kind of like the Olympics, but for accounting. And for those who are listening who aren't familiar with case competitions, and you might not be familiar with them as well, David, case competitions are kind of like professional sports for nerds. So while other guys my age are playing like football or rugby or I don't know, basketball. I wasn't one of those guys. I did presentations competitively ever since I was 19. I didn't get a job. But then, to make a long story short, I'll throw it back to you. I got older. I started running this case competition. I started coaching students on how to speak without any pay. I didn't know that you could get paid to be a coach. And then when I was 22 or 23, I had the idea for MasterTalk because I was thinking, no one's really sharing practical insights on how to speak for free for people who can't afford a coach. So I just started making videos in my mom's basement, and 5 years later, dude, this thing turned into something I never could have imagined.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I mean, what a journey, right? To go through that whole process, and because a lot of times people think, you're fairly young, right? So they think, oh, he just got there overnight, right? Like, and it's never overnight. So I wanna ask. I think it's pretty clear, but I want to ask the question anyway. What is your most dominant gift, Brendan?
For sure, David. That's a great question. I've never been asked that before, actually. I would say my dominant gift, if I were to simmer it down in one idea, it is my ability to succinctly and practically explain ideas in a way that even somebody who knows nothing about the subject matter can instantly get results from doing it. So let's break down what I did. I'm a college kid, right? I don't know anything. I don't have any C-level clients. I haven't worked with anyone professionally. I'm kind of just having fun. Because now, to your point, I am young. I'm 28 currently, but I have 9 years of experience in this industry, which is wild, right? So it really touches the point that you made around, there is no overnight success, and it definitely wasn't the case for me. I only got my first paid client in 2019, right? So that was 5 years ago, and obviously I've done well since, but that's the game. So what happened? I'm this college kid. I'm coaching people for free. I don't really know how to coach people. I'm kind of just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, and whatever works, I just coach them on it. And then because I had so much experience, I'd coached by 40 people at this point. I looked on YouTube when I was 22, and when I would just watch YouTube videos of other people in my industry who have PhDs in communication. And I just started finding holes in their thinking. I was like, I wouldn't teach it that way. I wouldn't approach it that way. And they're all good friends of mine now and colleagues. But obviously when you're young and you're immature, you kind of see them as the enemy, right? So I was like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. A bunch of this doesn't make any sense. So I think what it really comes down to, David, is the gift that I have that has been consistent throughout, especially in the last decade for me, is I learn something. I'm not afraid to make mistakes to figure out how to teach it, let's say, back to you. And then based on the feedback you give me, I make adjustments. And that's where a lot of the thought leadership you'll learn today from me on communication really comes from. It really comes from not a book or something, but really because David and 75 other people told me that this is working for them, that I can confidently go on a podcast and say, this will totally work on you because it worked for 75 other people.
That's gold, man. That's gold. Now, when did you discover this ability, Brendan? And do you feel like you developed it, or like it was already innate? And when? Like, can you remember? Like, how you can have a gift, but you're not conscious of it. You're just operating in it. Do you remember the moment when you were conscious? Like, yeah, this is my thing. This is my jam. And maybe even moments where you were unconscious, but you saw the hints of the greatness and the gift in you.
Yeah, interesting, David. I think for me, a lot of my gift in speaking, I feel, was earned, where it's like I work really hard for it. But some of it's innate too, where there's just some part of you that makes you feel like, okay, I got this. But I would say in the context of speaking and just knowing how to break things down, I would say for me, the main way that I learned it was probably when I was 19 or 20 and I started doing these case competitions. So when I started doing these case competitions, basically what it is, for people to understand this, it's like a company like Nike gives you a problem. And they say, hey, David, hey, Brenden, I have $1 million right now and I'm thinking of opening a new Nike store. Should I open it in Barcelona, in Spain, or should I be opening it in New York City? But I only have enough money to open one store. And both of them has different rent costs, have different profit models. And then what me and you do is we sit together in a team for 3 hours. We pump out a bunch of slides. We do a bunch of research. And at the end of the 3 hours, you only get 3 hours, you have to present your solution back to the executives of the company. So why do these case competitions exist? The reason they exist, David, is because they're a recruitment tool for companies. So if I'm a VP at Nike and I'm sitting there, that's why I was able to coach. My first C-level client I got when I was 22. Think how crazy that is. 22 or
That's
23.
nuts.
Yeah, it's really wild. But the reason I could play at their level was because in those competitions, the VP at Nike, as an example, sometimes it was Walmart, sometimes it was Nike, sometimes a different company. They would watch a bunch of students, a bunch of kids basically present solutions. And the executives know that, what Brendan's going to share today is not going to be revolutionary, but they're really looking at how are you presenting. They go, wow, that kid's really good. That kid's really good. Wow, that person's really professional. And then other people just blow them away. They're like, this person's better than the director that's on the panel with me. I should be hiring that kid out of college before everyone else does. And that's how I got jobs at PwC and IBM, and I started my career there before I went full-time into coaching. But the main idea is, to your question around the gift, I really learned my ability to structure problems and explain things simply in those competitions. Because when I was a consultant, I would say, this is where your problem is, this is where your solution, and judges would look at me and go, wow, this is so clear. I really felt like I spent $100,000 on this. And then later on, I found patterns with MasterTalk where I was able to do the same thing, but for communication specifically.
That's phenomenal, man. So, I mean, like, when I think about this, right, you're on average, your average client is 20 years older than you, right?
That's correct.
And how do you overcome the, I don't know if you had this experience, but the imposter syndrome that somebody may feel like when you're coaching, like you're talking to the top executives at these different places, and you're a young kid trying to like show them the game, and you've mastered your stuff. Your gift is on par. So how did what did you experience that, and how did you overcome that?
Oh, yes to everything, David. Absolutely. Obviously, a lot less today, but
Yeah.
for sure, when I started, 1,000%. So from 19 to 22, I didn't really have that much imposter syndrome because I was just coaching other college students. I wasn't getting paid to do. It was just a bunch of it was the blind teaching the blind, right? Like I was blind, they were blind. We're just kind of figuring this out. It was more fun.
Yeah.
But then the second thing that happened was I went straight to C-level. Why is that? The reason is because a lot of my friends started tech companies. You know how venture capital works. You do Silicon Valley, do a bunch of these things. And they were broke. So they said, hey, you're coaching my friend here. Can you just help? And I wasn't charging them either. But what they really taught me is what is the priority of a CEO? How are they thinking about their models? What are the feedback? So that's where I got a lot of my C-level experience. But the third piece is really where your question comes around, which I'm very happy to talk about, is when I started getting paid to do it. Getting paid to do it was really, really challenging. So when I was 22, 23 years old, and I was interfacing with a lot of C-level, it was really stressful. Mostly for me than for them, because they would ask me a lot of questions that I just don't know the answer to. I was like, crap, well, I haven't really been in that role. I don't really know. So how did I overcome this, David? The way that I overcame this is really simple. It's a simple idea. It's just one that most people don't do. And when we talk about communication, it's the same thing. Like the reason I can communicate confidently and tell you this is what the right answer is because I've done it a million times. And that is confidence. Alex Hormozy says it best. It's confidence that you earn. It is not confidence that you get, right? The reason you could sell the amazing services you do is because you've gotten the results for other people. It's not just because some random guy on the street. It's because you've done it. You're investing a lot of mastermind. That's the game. And I think at the beginning, it's about earning that confidence. So what happened to me? A couple of different things. Number one is an exercise that we're going to cover today that I'll just front load right now called the question drill, which is earlier on, especially on my first podcast, and I've done 500. So now it's like I know what questions are coming up. I'm more intuitive. And I'll tell you why I did 500 if you want to know later, because it wasn't about business. But the main idea is like they would start asking me questions I didn't know the answer to. They'd be like, hey, where does the fear of communication come from, Brenden? I was like, I don't know, Tokyo? Nashville? Is that where it comes from? So what I would do, David, is I would take a list of all these questions. I would write them all out. And every day I would answer a couple and say, where does this come from? So I do some research. I would ask another executive. I would get people who are friends of mine who are already CEOs, who weren't clients. And I would just go, what are the questions that you would ask me if you were buying my service? And they would write down questions. But the difference between me and everyone else, David, is I just answered 1,000 of them. I know I want this to be like super complicated. People think communication is so hard. Nah, dude. The reason I'm confident on a podcast is because I've answered 1,000 bloody questions about my expertise, my products, and my services. So when a skeptical executive, even today I get that. I just don't get it like, I don't get insulted anymore. But I definitely get the energy. Oh, my friend referred me to you. I don't really understand why they spent thousands of dollars on you, Brenden. So they bring skepticism, not directly, but through the questions they're asking. So they'll say something like, so Brenden, I'm a first-time CEO, and I'm really starting to reflect on what are some of the communication assets or thinking that I should be thinking about as a C-level. What is your thought on that? So that's what they would say. So they won't go like, I don't trust you, you're too young. They'll go like, how would you approach that situation? Then I go, well, Bob, let's talk about the 3 assets. Number 1, what are the high-risk presents? And I start going. And they're just going, oh, crap, this guy's way smarter than me in this area. But you do it in a fun, mature way. That's how I overcame it. So the lesson here, and then I'll throw it back to you, is you need to be the smartest person in your industry. Like, I tell young people this all the time. That's what I love about business, David, because I love social media. I love what you're doing in your business, because it's because of social media that I could prove to the world that, hey, this kid who lives in his mom's basement is smarter than 90% of other experts, and I don't have to tell you. I can just prove it, right? And the other piece that I did was I gave free coaching calls. People are too afraid to work for free. I think that is ludicrous, because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to work for free at the beginning, you're probably not passionate about it anyways, and I don't think you could build solid foundation. So a lot of my C-level not anymore. I don't get free coaching calls anymore. Unless they're a client, a part of another mastermind I'm affiliated with, I'll give them some time, and then they'll sign after. But my first 10 clients, dude, CFO wealth management. He would get on a call and say, hey, Brenden, I like your videos. I'm a little skeptical of working with you. I've worked with 2 other communication coaches. I've wasted money. I'm not sure if this is the right fit. And I would say, Ken, don't even worry about it, brother. How about I coach you for 60 minutes for free and let's see where it goes. And he said, you know what? I'm in. Wow, I can't believe you did that. And then I would sit down 60 minutes. I coached him for free. And at the end of that 60 minutes, actually this happened today because they're a client in another mastermind, so it's worth my time. They're like, I'm like 80% in, and then I coached them for 15 minutes, and they were like, where do I pay? Like, I'm in for this. And that's really the idea. Throwing it back to you.
The power of your gift, man, and you said the key word, develop, right? Because there's a lot of development that goes into what you do, and as a speaker, as a coach. And I think that there's a lot of hidden, what they call hidden hours, right? The hours that nobody sees in the dark, just like a basketball player shooting shots. You see the game when it's game time, but majority of the work that they do is behind the scenes. So could you speak to the development behind the scenes that makes you the amazing speaker and coach that you are, and what it really takes behind the scenes to develop your gift and your craft?
Beautiful question, David. So there's really a sentence that summarizes this thought, and then let's go into deeper. I don't know how deep you want me to go, so I'll go as deep, and you can stop me at any point.
A scuba dive, man.
For sure. So the main idea is show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Don't tell people you're a communication coach, especially people in the coaching business. I don't know about any other business, but in this business, you don't tell people, oh, David, I'm a communication guy. I work with all these people. No. I'm going to show you. Come to one of my webinars. Come to one of my challenges that, with your help, I'm building now. Right? Come to one of my challenges. Come to one of my things. And you just see what I can do. And then based on that, you make a decision. That's why I get a lot less objection. Even today when I get on sales calls and I feel like the prospect doesn't know me that much, I literally just stop the call and just say, you don't have to buy anything. Let me just coach you. Come to my next training, and then you make a decision. And that's high status selling. People go like, oh my God, okay, this person really doesn't care if I buy this from him. And that's really what creates the trust. Now let's go into the deep dive question that you asked around, what does it take to be me? And that, honestly, is probably a 90-minute conversation on its own. So I'll give you the cliff notes from different things that we're doing. So the first thing is really about practicing what I preach. I think what's really separated me from the industry, David, is a couple of things. But I think the main one is that if I tell you to do something, it's A, because I've made the mistake in the past, and B, because I fixed it. Actually, it's 3 things. B, because I fixed it, and C, my Band-Aid has worked on at least a dozen other people. So it's going to work on you, especially somebody who's getting started with it. So let's take an example to demonstrate this. Let's bring back the question drill. So the question drill, as a reminder for the audience, is, hey, instead of waiting for a prospect, most of your audience are entrepreneurs, right, David?
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. So let's focus the conversation there. So a lot of people are very reactive to questions they get when they're doing less than 100,000. Even a couple of the 7-figure guys I know. So like they'll sit on a call with a new offer. Prospect will ask them a question about their offer that they hadn't thought about, and then they go, I don't really know. And that leaks a ton of sales in their pipeline. They're just wasting a lot of good leads, which is stupid. But the fix is really easy. So the fix is going, you take the sales calls that you had this week, right? All the sales calls, 10 sales calls, 3 sales calls, even if it's 1. You get a VA to transcript all of the questions that you got asked. If you can do this yourself too, go into otter.ai, Fathom AI, Note Taker, look at all the questions that they asked you, rewatch the recording if you have to, and really replay it back in your mind. You know, if somebody asked me this question again, how could I answer this better? How could I answer this better? So there's 3 levels of this, right? The first level is what anyone should do. So let's say I'm working with a beginner, completely scared out of their wits, early level entrepreneur, but they have money from corporate so they can invest in my program, let's say, as an example.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they'll say, you know, Brenden, I'm a fresh entrepreneur. I've never done any of this before. I haven't even done a sales call. So for that person, the advice is saying, you know what, Billy or Bob or Julie, let's look at 10 questions that you think people will ask you, and let's answer them now. What would you think? How can we make this better? We brainstorm. That's level 1. Level 2 is the person who's consistently doing the exercise really well. So somebody who's a pro. Hey, Brenden, I've done the question drill. I've listened to you. I've done it 50 times. I've done it 100 times. I just need your help tweaking 2 or 3 questions I'm having trouble with. I got this morning from one of my clients, actually, which was, hey, Brenden, one of the questions I got asked in my intro a few days ago was, I hadn't been working for 6 months. So saying, why did your offer get pulled 6 months ago? What happened there? And I butchered the question. And then I listen to them and I go, you got to answer it this way, that way, which I don't need to comment on because most of your audience are entrepreneurs anyways. So the corporate stuff doesn't apply here. But then the third piece, which brings us directly to your question, is what Brenden does. So what Brenden does is always going to be more than what I expect my clients. So if I'm telling my early level client to do 1 question a week, that's their level. If I'm asking my pro guy or my pro gal, somebody like you would fit that bill, right? Pro person. I'm already taking sales calls. I'm already finding success. I'll give them more iteration. But Brenden is not doing the question drill once a day. He is practicing it right now. Going back to why did I do 500 interviews? Not because I needed business, because I wanted to practice question drills from 500 different people. And even now, after 500 interviews, you are doing such a great job, David, because you're asking me a bunch of questions around your specific interview. So now I'm answering these questions for the first time. So even after doing 500 interviews, there are still new questions that I could be asked. Whereas now, going back to what it takes to be me, I've done the question drill at least 2,000 to 3,000 times in my career. That's why when a high-level entrepreneur meets me in person like yourself, when a high-level CEO meets me in person, when a high-level exec, the respect is almost immediate. Because if they ask me a really hard question, I'll know the answer or I'll know the thought process behind it. And I think that gives you a little inkling of what it takes to be me.
Wow. You know, I don't know if you watch basketball, but you've got that Kobe Bryant of speaking kind of vibe, you know, like going and doing the work that most speakers probably won't do, and doing the things like 500 podcast interviews. Brenden, that's insane. You know, some people don't even have you've got more episodes recorded than podcasters have episodes, period. Right? Like most of your podcasters will never have 500 episodes themselves. Right? So that's is just remarkable, man. Like, where did you get that drive to push? Because right, it's one thing I often hear from speakers and clients that we have that are speakers is they say that you're a marketer first and speaker second, you know, when in the business side of it, right? So so I want to get into that too, because your Instagram, your YouTube, your LinkedIn, your social presence shows that, man, that same attitude you applied for the 500 speaking podcasting is the same attitude you brought to your marketing and distribution. So can you speak to that drive, and can you speak to your social media, man? Because it's fire.
Totally, David. Great question. Let's break it up. So what I'll do is I'll talk more about the drive, and I'll give you a chance to talk a little bit because I monologue a lot sometimes in pods, and then we'll go into the social media side. So let's talk about the drive a little bit. So there's two things that I want us to focus on. The first one is, what is our standard of excellence? So let's focus on that. And then the second piece is just internal drive. Where does that come from? How do we accelerate that? And I don't have good advice on the second, but I have great advice on the first. So let's start with the standard of excellence. Let's say I'm coaching the best person in their industry. They're already amazing. So why do they keep working with the coach? Very simple. Because there's always a hole. Even for me, even for you, there's a hole for all of us. There's always a next level. That's why me and you are still investing in masterminds, right? There's always another hole. So for me, at the beginning of the conversation, it starts with, what is your goal? So if my goal is to make $100,000 a year, David, I don't need to be on podcasts. You don't need to do anything, actually. You just put yourself out there a little bit. You have a great service. You have a great product. You get word of mouth. That should clear you $100,000. Pretty simple.
Right.
If the goal is $1 million a year, you could still do that, but now it becomes a lot more challenging. It's like, okay, now I'm running out of referrals. Should I look at paid traffic? Should I look at challenges?
Mm-hmm.
But now let's go above that. And now this is not a revenue multiplier. I just mentioned revenue to just start the conversation, but that's not where the conversation ends. Now the conversation becomes, what's your legacy? What do you want to leave behind? Do I just want to be the coach that made $100,000 every year and that's it, and provided for my family? Nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. It's a great thing. You're impacting people's lives. It's amazing. That's not the legacy I want to leave. I actually worked with another coach on this. His name is Steve Hardison, and he really helped me build my identity. And I'll break it down for you, which I rarely talk about on podcasts, so it's great. You want us to make this high level, so let's make this high level, which is simply a 7-letter word that I abide by. TBCCTEL, which stands for the best communication coach that ever lived. So if I want to be the best communication coach that ever lived, what does that person do? What does that person smell like? What does that person eat for dinner? How does that person show up in their family? And I don't do it perfectly. That's why I still have coaches. I don't do that perfectly, but I do it enough where people see me as that person. So one example, we gave a couple. Would TBCCTEL stop at 100 question drills? Or stop at an interview? Or just say, like we had that conversation in person where you invited me on the podcast, right? Your expectation was probably Brenden was going to say no because he's like doing a bunch of things. But no, I didn't say that at all. It's like, oh, Brenden, David's a great guy. I don't even care if there's 7 people listening to this or 7 million. I'll just like, I'll do it, right? Because I love your energy. I love who you are. That's what TBCCTEL does, right? TBCCTEL doesn't just settle for, oh, yeah, only if you're a big name, I'll do the show. No. That's not what TBCCTEL. TBCCTEL does 10,000 question drills. Because so he sets the expectation. So that when people work with him, because obviously meeting me in person is very different than following me on social media, right? Yes. So when you meet me, you go like, okay, this guy does not mess around. And that's one example of many. Another example of TBCCTEL is, what types of shows does TBCCTEL do in his career? Well, he's obviously going to be on Joe Rogan. He's obviously going to be on Lewis Howes. He's obviously going to be on Lex Fridman. He's obviously going to be on, and I've had the fortune, very, very grateful. I've had some great opportunities like that already in my career. But the point is that I'm not going to name drop or talk about right now because that's not relevant. But I think the point is that, hey, if I'm going to be on Joe Rogan anyways, I better be practicing right now. So the first 100 appearances, my guy, were not, oh, I'm on Christo's podcast. I'm on, the Muhammad Ali podcast or Tyson, whatever. Like, I'm not on these podcasts. I'm literally on a weed show. I'm on a sports show. I'm on something that's nothing to do with my expertise, but it's just practice. Because when TBCCTEL gets the call for that interview, you better smash that interview out of the park. And that is really the main message, is going back to what is our identity and what is our standard of excellence. So all of you listening to this podcast right now, really what the advice becomes now is ask yourself, where do you want your business to be in the next 5 years? Really take the time to journal that, document that, think about that, but then ask yourself the real question, which is everybody who's already achieved that, what do their assets, their thought process, and what are they doing on social? What are they doing? And this is my last point. I'll throw it back to you. That's what I did with Gary Vee. I said, I want a brand like Gary Vee. I want a brand like Alex Hormozy. I want a brand like Toady. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Well, Gary's posting 4 times a day on Instagram, and I'm barely posting once a day. I'm lazy. I need to work hard. Alex Hormozy is doing a bunch of speaking engagements. He's saying yes to a bunch of podcasts he shouldn't be. He really shouldn't be. And what am I doing? Oh, I'm not doing that. I need to do that more. And just following that thought process, I think, makes us really successful.
Amazing. And I'm going to share something from our conversation that really struck a chord with me. And you're not only, I'll mess up the acronym, but the best communication leader. I think I'm TT. I don't want to mess up.
Yeah, I know. It's a messed up. Yeah, it's TBCCTEL, the best communication coach that ever lived. And I wasn't expecting you to remember that. It's a long one, so don't worry.
Yeah. Right. I think there's another layer that nobody will know until they know that those that are your students will know. You gave me a glimpse of what it's like to be one of your students. And if you don't mind sharing the level of depth that you go into to support your student success. I think this is the biggest tragedy in the coaching space, right? Because there's a lot of people that market really well, and you do that. But there's a lot of people that don't fulfill very well, and you don't do that because you fulfill very well. And from what you shared with me, I was blown away at the level. And we had conversations. I told you about speakers that don't want to do the level of fulfillment that you're doing to support their students, but you're gladly doing it. So could you speak to the level of service you provide to your students that you're coaching?
You're very kind and generous in saying that, David. I have a long ways to go. I have a lot way to grow. But yes, you're right. Fulfillment is super important to me when it comes to getting them the result. And let's make this a principle as well so that people can take away some key lessons here. Let's start with the advice that I gave you first, because I think that's really where you want me to go. So we had a nice dinner at the mastermind. We had met for the first time there. And you just kind of told me a little bit more about your business, and you're going like, hey, if you had some advice for me, what would it be? And I was not easy on you. I said, hey, David, if you want to take your game to the next level, if you're investing $50K, $60K in masterminds, and you're a high level guy, your media should be at the same level as that person, so that when people see you on social media, they already think you're worth. Actually, they might even think you're worth more than that. So when you say whatever the investment is for, obviously you have a different suite of products, whether it's 10K, 5K, 50K, 30K, they really feel that you're worth 10 times more than that. So what I encouraged you to do as a push is to say, hey, how can we optimize doing this podcast in person? So so the next level for you looks like, and it's different for everyone, it's like you enjoy being a podcast host. The reason I'm not implementing what I'm telling you, I don't like being a podcast host. I talk a lot. I like being a podcast guest. So I have to go all in on that. So for you, it's about saying you got a cool, super nice vibe, super great energy. When people meet you, they're already thinking of working with you. And I'm already thinking about working with you. Like, we were going back and forth already. So that's the point, is like, wait a second. Next level David, if he's charging $50,000 for a service and he's not willing to fly in a media team to interview people, and they're going to charge him, what, $10,000 for the day? Maybe. If you have a friend, they'll probably even do it for $5, $6, $7 if you pick the right vendor. Right? Because I was telling you I spent maybe 30, 40 grand a year on media. So I was kind of challenging you and going like, hey, you probably are doing better financially than me. Maybe not. But you're definitely in the same income bracket. So it's like, okay, dude, like, if I was spending 20 grand a year when I was making less than 6 figures. That was a long time ago. So the message for you was saying, okay, if you're at a 30K mastermind where you're getting a lot of your clients, and you fly in a superstar media team, and you're saying, hey guys, I just want to interview everyone in this mastermind to get to know you more. Let's do Friday. I want to do Josh, and then you do 30-minute interviews. You just look super badass, first of all. And I was like, wow. And you become famous within that mastermind. And every time somebody's looking to do a challenge funnel or something else, they're just going to work with you directly. That was the feedback that I gave you.
Yes. Game changing.
Of course, man. And I can't wait
Yeah.
for the implementation as well. But I think the
Yes, sir.
main idea is like where that comes from. Let's go into the where that comes from, and then we'll get into the other pieces of fulfillment. Where that
Right.
comes from is this common saying I got from a guy named Gary when I was getting started. And the advice is, and even I don't do this perfectly. I'm always applying this too. I'm always learning, but I think it's such a golden rule. You can never take clients to places you've never been.
Mm.
You can never take clients to places you've never been. I can't come here and say, you know what, David, you should wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. I can't tell you. I still can't tell you that because Brenden wakes up at 9:30. I just workaholic 12, 14 hours from 9 to midnight. But like, I work hard, but I don't wake up at 5 a.m. So I can't tell David to wake up at 5 a.m. But if I'm spending 20, 30K on media, not a lot of money, like 20, 30K, and I'm showing up on Instagram, even when I was broke, I was posting 4 times a day on Instagram to get to the brand I have now. And David is doing much better than me, at least the person I was before, and he's not even doing a little bit of that. Doesn't make sense. But the reason I can coach you is because I'm taking you to a place that I've already been. That's why I can show you that path. So that's number one. When you think about fulfillment in your business, never settle for the results that you've already gotten in that field. That is really important. So when I think about speaking, and I don't need to tell you this. You already know this about my character. Bro, I'm not settling for the information I know about speaking right now. Right? I'm always looking to work with better clients because they'll challenge me more, they'll push me more, and I'm excited about that. And it's really easy for a 28-year-old at this stage of my career, because I've been very blessed in my life, to say like, oh, I'm done. Like, I'm so cool, man. I'm 28. I'm crushing it. I'm doing. That's death, man. That's a loser's game. I'll never be that. That's one piece. The other piece, and I'll throw it back to you, is just fulfillment in general, right? I'll give the couple of things I do differently in the program, but I don't want this to be a pitch, so I'll just be really quick on it. I think what's different is like really what I care about the most is when people are doing my communication coaching program, I don't care about how much money they spent on me. I only care about whether or not they got the result. It's a binary outcome. It's yes or it's no. Did they get the result, and why or why not? So I create different outcomes, even if it makes my life a little bit more challenging sometimes, to make sure you get the outcome. And this benefits me long term, and I'll explain why later. But I think the main idea is that's where I came up with the idea of just saying, hey, you know what? And I tell my group this, and I go, hey, you can send me as many videos as you want. And a lot of you probably think you don't believe me, right? Why don't you send me a video and find out? And they all go like, okay. And they send a video, and I reply back in like an hour, within 24 hours. And they go, okay, send another video. And then the next week I go, cool, raise your hand if I didn't review your video. And there's like 15 people on the call. Nobody raises their hand. Exactly. So now you know this is real. And then they go, oh my God. And then they just drill, boom, boom. But there's a benefit to me doing this. But let's focus on the fulfillment, because it's selfish to me too.
Yeah.
But the main idea, David, here's the main question of fulfillment, to make this a framework, is understand what your competitors are doing. And then the second piece is change your mindset. There's a great book on this. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Phil, I forgot his name is Will something, but he like ran this really popular restaurant. But the main idea is always ask yourself, what is unreasonable to offer to my clients? What is unreasonable to offer to my clients? Like even in my 5-day challenge, I'm already, even on a $97 ticket, I'm already thinking of ways of like, okay, if you're a VIP every day, you're going to get video feedback from me or somebody from my team. That's insane. No one does that. Nobody does that in 5-day challenges, right? So it's like, it's just do things that are freaking unreasonable. When people are VIPs, I do something really fun. Like at the end of the event, if somebody messages me, hey, I forgot my charger, I forgot my AirPods, I just buy them new ones. So like chargers, I'll send 2 chargers. They get freak out. They go like, what? What? Did you spend $300 on AirPods? I was like, I don't care. Like here's AirPods. That's unreasonable hospitality. If you think about ways to create unreasonable things for your clients, and a lot of these things are cheap, it doesn't have to be expensive. They will stay with you for life. That's all I got. That's my rep.
Man, Brenden, bro, like that's amazing. I mean, like your attitude towards fulfillment. Like you could do a master program on fulfillment, like a MasterTalk. There's a master fulfillment. like you know what I mean? Like I'm blown away, man. So no, thank you for sharing that. I think listeners really got to get a glimpse of And I know Brenden is humble and he's not promoting himself, but I think you will not regret if you get the opportunity to work with Brenden on any level. He's going to give you what he shared, like beyond what you can expect or even think or even imagine, right? So I want to know, like, back to now marketing your gift, right? Because you're a great speaker, right? An excellent speaker, an excellent communicator, and an excellent coach. We were talking about social media a little bit earlier, but this is the truth that best known beats the best, meaning that you've really built up your brand to be, like you said, you invest the money into media, you invest the time into social and obviously leverage and all of those things. But there are speakers that are amazing, just like there are athletes that are amazing, but they don't prioritize marketing, and therefore the best known can still beat somebody that's even the best and even that's better than them. So what do you like say to an aspiring speaker, aspiring coach that really wants to be good at their craft, but they say, you know what, Brandon, I don't really want to focus on this marketing thing. They're like, it's icky to me. It's like, what are your thoughts around that?
Totally, David. And I love that quote I never heard before. The best known beats the best. There's definitely some truth there, for sure. Here's the frame, and it's a different frame that I'm sure other guests on the podcast have shared. So I'll give you my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen any of it as marketing, David. Okay, maybe running Facebook ads potentially. I'm getting into paid traffic this year, but that's not how I became the success that I am today. All of my business was built organically, which is amazing if I got to this far. So imagine what I could do with paid, like we were talking about at the dinner, right? And going back into this, like I closed I'm just saying this to inspire people. Like I closed 30K in the last 2 days. But the reason I'm saying that and I want to inspire people with that is because I had zero sales resistance on those calls. And the reason there's zero, because you deliver the entry level product so well that when they learn about the next thing, they literally go like, where do I pay? Like, I don't even care what this call is about. Like, let's just do the thing. And that's what I want people to think about is the way I want us to mind shift. And this applies to the example I just gave into social media is it's not about marketing. It is about this quote that I want you to never forget, especially in service-based businesses. It's very easy to do in high-margin service-based businesses, which is what me and you are in. That's the game that me and you are playing. And that probably a lot of people. Product-based is a little harder, much lower margins, much higher volume. It's different. But in this business, it's quite simply the most generous person wins. The most generous person wins. Full stop. End of story. The most generous person wins. So here's the problem with a lot of business owners listening to this right now. They apply this very well, but only in the context of the people that they're serving. Right? So like, okay, I know David, I know Josh, I'm working with Julia. I'm going to serve Julia with my heart full, and it works. We ain't broke. It works. Julia loves us. She joins the next program. She tells us. And that's really my bread and butter. Let's be honest. That's why I have a business. That's why I'm successful. You deliver really well, all that jazz. But my challenge to that person is how many people do you want to impact? Because for every person who does your high-ticket mastermind, there's 99 other people who live in India, who live in Africa, who live in different parts of the world, who can't even afford to give you $1. What are you doing for those people? And usually when I say that, they go, well, I'm not doing anything. And I go, that's the point of my social media. And I say this genuinely, dude. I did not start like people get this mixed up now that I have a business and it's doing well and all that stuff. People think I started MasterTalk because I wanted to make money. Dude, I didn't get my first paid client until 9 months into MasterTalk. I was just making videos for fun. I was a college kid. I just wanted people to have the information for free. And that is still my vision. It's just now I have a lot more budget to play with because I have high-level clients that help me fund a lot of the stuff. But I think the main idea is really simple, which is my social media content, that's why it's resonated with you and your wife and other people, and I'm super grateful for that, is it was never about getting business. My first intuition was always, for every David who can afford me, there's always a Bill somewhere else or some Sanjay in India who's like in a rural village who's watching MasterTalk too. That's who I'm making the videos for. You just happen to be watching the videos in the intro, but I'm really making the videos for Sanjay. And that's what really creates the magic, is like we need to change our perspective from marketing, from just generating business. And there's truth to that too. Yes, there's business. Yes, there's strategies, and I've implemented that. I'm still learning them from you, and I'm still growing. I haven't mastered marketing by any means. But I think the starting point for sure is saying, wait a second. If we are not showing up for the world every day, are we for free? Are we really serious about our mission? Are we really serious about our mission? And actually, this happened to me recently. Even if I'm giving the advice, I'm still checking myself on the advice. Why am I transitioning from webinars to challenges? I'll tell you, it has nothing to do with money. I'll make more money, but it has nothing to do with money. I literally had a call 2 months ago with my business partner, David. I had ran maybe 100 webinars, and I've done really well, right? I've closed a lot of money, whatever. I've done well, whatever. And I could provide for my family, all that jazz. But you know what I realized, and he challenged me on this, when he ran a challenge, like super imperfectly, it was a mess, but he still did well, is that I looked at the people on that call, and it really changed their life. You know, the problem with the webinar is you could really help people, and it's great, but it's a 90-minute workshop. But if you do a challenge, even if the person doesn't convert high ticket, at the end of the 5 days, they'll go, oh my God, this was life-changing. And I realized in that moment I was spiritually misaligned. I said, wait a second, I should maybe I'll do webinars for the conversation you taught me, which is to bring people to the challenge. But I need to go all in on the challenge. Not because, and I want to make this clear, not just because I'm going to make more money, which is also true. I'm going to make more money. But because the people who can't afford me or are willing to spend a little bit of money, I want them to leave transformed too. So even my business strategy needs to be spiritually aligned, because that's the key. And the reason why I've done this, and that's why Gary Vee's making more money than me. It's why Alex Hormozy is making more money than me. It's why Tony Robbins is making way more money than both of us combined, and probably all of our clients put together in a room.
Right.
It's because he's the most generous person in the industry. All of his content's free. And that is the mind shift that I want us to think about as business owners. Don't think of it as marketing expense. Think of it as impact expense. Are you actually putting out free content to serve people who can't afford you? That is the challenge. And if the answer is no, you're doing something fundamentally wrong in your business.
Jeez, that is so deep, Brenden. My God, that's fire, man. I got 2 last questions for you.
Sure, man.
I want to honor your time. I'm just like, wow, like, serving, you know, that's true. There's a statement about like the character of a person, right? It's what you can do for somebody without needing them to do something for you, right? Like that's the truth. Like that's how do you treat people that can't do anything for you, right? And that's what you're modeling by having this, I like that, impact expense and just putting the impact out there. Man, I'm motivated, man. Thank you for that. So one, how can people, speaking of this, how can people get connected with you and plug in with the services? And hey, maybe there's somebody who's listening to this that is a good fit for your coaching program or different things. And maybe there's somebody that's listening to this is like, hey, I want to follow this guy. I want to be plugged in. So you just drop how they could do that.
Yeah, for sure, David. Happy to. So the easiest way to do that is you can just DM me on Instagram. So my handle on Insta is Master Your Talk. Your is spelled Y-O-U-R. Send me a DM and let me know what you thought of the podcast, and I'll be more than happy to send you a voice note.
Beautiful. And then last, man, you weren't prepped on this. This is a question I hope you have never gotten. I don't think you've gotten this question before. It's the way we end the show. What's the difference between one's gift and one's purpose? One's gift and one's purpose.
I'll give you what's on my mind right now, David. I think both are interrelated, but if I had to draw a definition or a difference between both, a purpose is what is the overarching way in how one leads and lives their life, and a gift is the vehicle that enables us to extrapolate our purpose. So if we use me as an example, my purpose is really to uplift underdog geniuses. That's really my brand. Is taking people that are super, super smart, that are really good at what they do, experts, whatever, but the market is undervaluing them at different spectrums. It could be the person in India who's totally broke and is watching MasterTalk for free. It could be a high-level client where I'm at a mastermind and I'm going like, dude, like you really need a speech coach. You should really like level up your game. So it's really overcoming and empowering, rather, underdog geniuses. The gift is the vehicle that helps me enact my purpose. So the gift, it just so happens that the value that I add to people like you is not like how to cook, because I don't know anything about that. It's not about, it just so happens that I'm just really good at communication coaching. So that is the gift that then becomes the purpose. So what does that become as advice? I think the advice becomes, I think it's a lot more important for us as business owners, especially entrepreneurs, to really reflect more on the gift versus the purpose. I think the gift is the most important thing, because once we figure out what are the ways that we can tangibly add value to other people, then through tangibly adding value, regardless of whether we find our purpose or not, we're still making a difference. And then through that journey, our purpose gets uncovered, which is not what I was able to communicate as succinctly as I do now 5 years ago.
Brenden, wow. I mean, you poured your heart and soul into this, man. I feel that, and I thank you for that. I know listeners are gonna be blessed. This is gonna be an episode you're gonna have to listen like 5, 10 times. You know, I'm gonna go back over and hear this over and over and over again myself. So I don't think there's anything else to say, man. Just thank you for what how you poured into the people. We're gonna plug everything in the notes, man, for people to plug in with you, and just God bless you, man, for what you're doing, and then the impact you're making. It's tremendous, man. I get to hear the heartbeat behind your movement, man, and it's beautiful.
Thanks, brother. Such an honor to be with you today, and thanks for having me on the show.